Yeah, so just to wrap up on our discussions, the group discussions that we had. So a conflict is a situation with at least two people. In most cases, at least two people, two independent parties. Conflicts can be intrapersonal, can be between people, between groups, within a family, even within a class. As we are here, I'm sure in one way or the other you have some conflicts that needs to be settled down. Sometimes maybe you want to have a makeup class and you fail to agree on when we should have a makeup class. So conflicts are inevitable. Conflicts are everywhere. I'm sure some of you, even today, you have already had some conflicts with someone or at home, with a roommate, with the maybe a bus conductor, whatever. So conflicts are almost everywhere, and almost all of us have been involved in conflicts in one way or the other. Not today, but in one way or the other, we all find ourselves having conflicts with other people. So conflicts may end up in destruction, death. Some people die. For example, the Ukraine Russia war, we've seen a lot of people dying because of the conflicts that they have, and also, actually, a question: are conflicts always bad? Do we have some positive? Yeah. So, what are the positive effects of conflict? They lead to change. Yeah. Sometimes conflicts are not always bad. Sometimes they lead to change. What else apart from change? Conflicts. Mm. Mm. So through conflicts, people accept their mistakes and they know if they were in the wrong side or not. So they may also result in increased effectiveness, enhanced relationships, and further goal attainment. So when we think of conflicts, we should not always think of the negative effects of conflicts. They also have some positive effects: increased effectiveness, enhanced relationships. Maybe your relationship wasn't good through conflicts, maybe through mediation or whatever, conflict management strategy. Sometimes you realize like your relationship has been improved. So let's not think negatively always about conflict. Maybe because when we think of conflict, we think of people fighting, exchanging blows. So it's not always that people be fighting, exchanging blows. Conflicts, even just with words, people may have such conflicts. Yeah, so if we think of conflicts, people have conflict because of so many reasons, as we discussed about why people have or engage in conflict. Having different views, maybe differences in cultural background, having different political perspectives, they all lead to conflict. Because there is a point where almost everyone wants their point to be heard, or maybe they want they want like their points to be understood by everyone. So that's when, more especially if you can't understand each other, if you cannot reach a mutual agreement or mutual understanding between the two, conflicts arise. So conflicts can be between groups, between cultures, tribes, between countries, two or more countries. It can also be global conflicts. We can also experience global conflicts, like Second World War, First World War. Those are they were global conflicts. So if we think of conflicts, we shouldn't think of only two people, two groups. It can be within the country, between countries, globally. We may have conflicts, even at family level, within the family. Son, maybe father, son, mother, daughter, husband, wife, within the family. You may have also may experience some conflicts. So conflicts exist when there is interaction between two or more people or between groups of people in most cases. Even though, as we said, you may also experience some intrapersonal conflict, having conflicting ideas within yourself. So conflict happens at different levels. So let's look at types of conflicts, something that you did not discuss. So the first one is intrapersonal conflict. Intrapersonal conflict, the conflict within yourself, impression of an individual shaped by the state of your mind. So sometimes you, as an individual, you may have individual personal conflicts, having conflicting ideas. Maybe you want to choose between two, you have two choices or two alternatives. You want to choose one. You may have some conflicts, which one to choose. So even when you want to choose which college to go, maybe you had some conflicts, maybe within yourself. Should I go to this institution or this institution? So conflicts, as we said, they are inevitable. So it is, however, important to know that such human state is largely dictated by circumstances around that person. In most cases, interpersonal conflicts, they are dictated by the circumstances around you, the environment around you can also lead to some conflicts within yourself. So the issues such as anger, depression, confusion, frustration, which can lead to aggression, erratic behavior, addiction, and in extreme cases, suicide. You know those people who commit suicide? It means they don't just commit suicide from nowhere. I'm sure they debate, should I kill myself or not? Sometimes they feel like, no, I think the only way to escape from the problems I'm facing right now is to eliminate my life. So conflicts also happens within yourself. And this ones happens almost each and every day, having conflict within yourself. Should I attend classes today or not? You start thinking whether to attend classes or not, whether to end a relationship. Sometimes maybe this relationship is toxic. I want to end this relationship. Then you think, no, I think I do not have to end this relationship. I have to continue. So this is intra-personal conflict. Are we together on intrapersonal? Yeah, the second one is interpersonal conflict, which is described as man against man. You and someone having conflicting ideas. So this type of conflict may be direct opposition, as in exchange of blows, a gunfight, or robbery, and it may be a more subtle conflict between the desires of two or more persons, interpersonal conflicts. What can lead to interpersonal conflicts, like man-to-man conflicts, issues that can lead to causes of interpersonal conflicts, like two people having conflicting conflicts. What can lead to those kind of conflicts? Yeah, having different ideas. So these conflicts can end in maybe fighting. People can resume to fighting. Like maybe when you feel like your point of view is not heard, or people don't understand your point and your emotions go so high, and you may end up exchanging blows, fighting people. So yeah, it can lead to killing each other, of course. So you were once involved in fighting. Someone killed you, physically, emotionally, psychologically, physically. So you were raised from the dead. Yeah, so another one is man against society, or man against nature, man against society. So yeah, this is another type. The second one was man against man. Now it can be you against the society, because the society has its norms, practices that are expected of you to abide. So if you don't, it means you may have conflicts with the society. So the issue of slavery, human trafficking, child prostitution, corruption, bullying can lead to man against society. The way you present yourself, for example, maybe the mode of dressing in other societies, it can lead to conflicts between you and the society, because the society feels like you are behaving in a way not compatible with that society. Yeah. Yeah. So according to moral, man against man conflicts may shade into man against society. Man against man may lead into man against society. Sometimes it can be man to man, which can accelerate to another level of conflict. And also man against nature. Man against nature. You know, we need to preserve our environment. Sometimes the way we deal with the environment, cutting down of trees, that's man against nature. You cut down trees. And also the society, if the society says you should not cut down trees in this forest, what will happen? It means you are conflicting with the nature itself, because it will lead to some maybe soil degradation, soil erosion, and also even the society. These days I've been in the villages, maybe they have some laws as to say if you cut down a tree, you not only repressing, you give, like, they make you give a goat like to the chief. So think of just cutting down a tree, and maybe you don't have a goat, you need to buy somewhere and give just to solve your issues. So conflicts can be person against society. The issue of corruption. If you are involved in corruption, you know what the society can do to you. Sometimes if they feel agitated, they can even burn your house. So this is man against society or man against nature. Are we together on that point, man against society? Yeah, so we have so many examples. Human trafficking, something that which is not allowed in our society. So if you are involved in human trafficking, people will be searching for you, looking for you. You'll be running up and down so that maybe you are not caught if you are doing human trafficking. So these are just some of the examples whereby people are involved in man against society type of conflict. So the other one is family conflict. Family conflict. Within the family unit, people may have some conflict, more especially if some individuals within the family did not meet the expectations of the other family members. For example, the roles or responsibilities that as a human being within that family you are expected to perform. So if as a girl you are expected to wash plates or to wake up early in the morning and you do not do that, it may lead to conflict roles that we are expected to perform within the family. So there are a lot of causes of family conflicts. What can be other causes of family conflicts? Come again? Oh yeah, miscommunication can also lead to family conflicts. What else? Land disputes. Food? What about food? Oh, poverty. What about mothers? Conflict. It means you have misbehaved. If you do not like do your roles as expected, what do you expect of them? Eh? No, mothers are good people. But why is it that when you have issues, you run to the mothers? You run to your mother. Because mothers are good people, so do not blame mothers. So as I said, conflict can be between father and son, mother and father, husband and wife, brother and sister, and different conflicts can happen within the family. maybe cousin, nephew, uncle, it happens. So even the causes can be different. For girls, maybe fighting for a boy. For the cousin. Or fighting for the cousin. Wow. Yeah, so such conflicts can be caused by factors like rudeness. So maybe the mothers, as you said, maybe because you are rude, mothers can. Yeah, the ones who are rude. No, the kids are rude. So the mothers are trying to counteract that kind of rudeness. Not at all. Anyway, sooner or later, sooner or later, you also become mothers. So we'll see how you will handle your kids. Eh? If you continue this kind of behavior, so we'll be expecting to see how you will be managing your home. Yeah. So the issue of laziness, most of you are lazy. That's why you are blaming mothers. The issue of laziness. You want to wake up at 8, 9 o'clock, but you are ready. Yeah. This other day, I stay with my niece. Was like it was around to 8. And titimwera chani tea. Ndamuza kuti upita kuchigayiwa gayi upike chigumu tonoti iwe umwe nthawi zanji. Because I asked, this is to 8. If you are supposed to ask about breakfast, you are supposed to ask maybe around 6 or 7, so that you have time to prepare. But we are busy. We are doing our own things. So on food, for me, I give them the money. They are the ones who like prepare the food in most cases. So I tell them, just tell me in advance. Auntie Masanari Jashani, I will tell them what to do. As I was leaving, they already asked, Mom, Auntie Masanari Jashani, what about for dinner? So I want to tell them, like, it's their duty, like their responsibility to make sure they prepare breakfast. So I was like, you are supposed to ask me a day before, not like this morning, like, Auntie, this is to 8. Mamuza would around 9. Here is the man they go buy bread and it's around 10. Yeah. So even inheritance and will disputes, the issue of property. Maybe you buy land as a family and you realize the land is in the name of the husband, or you'll be like, why? So sometimes that's why you find in most cases they choose to register in the name of the children. You'll be like, so all you want is after maybe you want to leave me so that one day you'll be the only one benefiting from this property or from this land. Yeah. So family conflicts also happens. The other one is an intergroup conflict, disagreement between people, different people, ethnic groups, religious groups. What examples can you give on intergroup conflict? Intergroup conflict. Live examples that we have experienced here in Malawi, maybe? The Chewas and the Tumbukas. What about the Chewas and the Tumbukas? What do they fight for? Eh? How? What about Zimbabweans? Aren't they rude? Yeah, so this is the kind of disagreement between groups. This is intergroup. It means we have 2 or more groups having some kind of disagreements. So even these days, even churches, you find a church and a church between villages, ethnic groups, as I said, between communities, you may also have some intergroup conflicts, or Christians and Muslims. So the other one is intra-state conflicts. Intra-state conflict that happens within the borders of a sovereign state, like the Malawi. So we also have some conflicts within the state. So the issues such as economic factors can also lead to intra-state conflicts, and even distribution of maybe the issues of development. I've seen people like saying this regime is just constructing roads only in the long way, whatever. So in most cases, we also have some intrastate conflicts. Maybe in terms of resource control, if we feel like the other state is controlling more of the resources than the other. I remember there was a time when, is it Cholo, when they wanted to have their own country, remember? Oh, it was Cholo Mulanje Palombi, because they felt like they are being sidelined in terms of development, uneven development. So it also happens, and usually this is manifested through the issues, more especially during the time political rallies. That's when you hear a lot of these stories about, maybe, you know what, this regime is just concentrating their development in this area and this area. So if you vote for me, I will make sure like everyone benefits from the country's development. So we also have intrastate conflicts. So sometimes the issue of intrastate conflicts, sometimes they lead to disintegration of that state. The issue of Sudan, now we have Sudan and South Sudan. You remember it was one country. The issue was access or benefiting from the natural resources that they have. They have, I think, oil, the Sudanese people. So it also leads to conflict and separation. They have separated. Now we have two countries, Sudan and South Sudan. The other one is interstate conflict, which is also known as international conflict, which can be conflicts between two or more states. It can be two, maybe Malawi and Zambia, Malawi and Tanzania, Malawi and Zimbabwe. So having some conflicts, but sometimes it may involve two or more states having conflicts. An example of interstate conflict, do you have an example? Think of an example. Yeah, between Malawi and Tanzania. That was interstate conflict between Malawi and Zambia when we were scrambling for that Lake Malawi, a certain portion of Lake Malawi. That was interstate conflict between Malawi and Tanzania. What else? An example on interstate conflict. So you are looking for trouble from that side. Yeah. So in some cases, this type of conflicts degenerates to a state of war. So, and you should remember that all wars are described as conflicts. Wars are described as conflicts. So the issue of territorial encroachment can lead to interstate conflict, breakdown of diplomatic ties, exportation of toxic or contrabands to another country. Exportation, I think sometimes we get some products which are outdated, or maybe they have already reached their expiry date. It happens.
No, but the other one was intra.
Yeah, intra, within the country. Conflict is within the country. Inter, between or among countries, can be between two or more states. Intergroup, it means two or more groups. Yeah. So the other one is a global conflict. Global conflict, which is sometimes mistaken by interstate conflict, although it also connotes international conflict. So the issue of First World War, Second World War, that was a global conflict. So those are the good examples, like the Serbian-Australian conflict, which resulted in the First World War. So usually the world wars can start as interstate conflict, which can escalate to global conflict. And also the German-British conflict, which culminated in the Second World War. So usually the global conflicts, they'll start maybe as interstate between states And then the other countries, amazamba kulowererete, like the issue of Russia and Ukraine, you found that some superpowers, the countries, they had their own country they supported. So sometimes, like, it may lead to a global conflict. So the rise of terrorism has escalated to a global conflict in which the whole world is battling with the scourge of global terrorism, the issue of terrorism. Now it's like a global issue, a global conflict. Any question on the types of conflicts? Family, intergroup, interpersonal, global, interstates, interstate conflicts. Do you have any question on the types of conflicts? I think the types are so easy, more especially if you understand the meaning of those words like inter group.
How about this conflict whereby America will fight with Africa?
America, it will be interstate because we said it can be one or more countries. But what scenario, like, can you give an example of America and the whole Africa? So are we together? Yeah. So causes of conflicts. These were the answers from the weekend classes. Causes of conflicts, like resource scarcity, political power struggle, ethnic and religious differences, like the issue of Tuts and Hutus, economic inequality, territorial disputes, social injustice and human rights violations, environmental changes, and ideological differences. And you can see that most of your points are also listed here. So if you have some of other points, maybe you do not take note of, you can note them, like territorial disputes, I think you did mention, political power struggles can lead to some disputes. You remember when was that? Itawina DPP, kunali kutamanga mmiseo. Yeah, political power struggle. It was 20. No, I mean when DPP won and it was overruled to say adabela mavoti. Nthawi ya Jane answer. Is it 2019? So the issue of political power struggles can also lead to conflicts. Even people losing lives. I think we saw some people losing lives, injury. People were injured. Economic inequality, when the other parts or within the country or between countries, they feel like they do not benefit from the economy or economic growth. So it can also lead to conflicts, territorial disputes, or between countries. It can also lead to conflicts. So the effects of conflicts, loss of life and injury, displacement of people. So I think you can take note of the answers, some that we did not mention, we did not discuss. Displacement of people, we see people being displaced in terms of war. That's why we have refugees in Darika, people running away from conflicts in their countries. Loss of, it also leads to loss of livelihood, because maybe you had land, whatever, like the issue of Ukraine, the way it has displaced people and people have lost their livelihood. Economic disruption, disruption of education, human rights violation, physical, sexual, emotional. People are violated, like human rights get violated during some conflicts. Sometimes you find people being raped, sexually abused. Social fragmentation, if it's even within the country, within the society, within communities. Psychological trauma. For people who have watched Ukraine and Russian war, like in the beginning, when you see people running away carrying their luggage, You see, you could see how people were psychologically affected. People were traumatized. You found people like maybe parents crying, maybe they can't trace other family members. Yeah, the issue of Israel, environmental damage, like akaponya zimabomu zija, what happens to the land? Pena mwina kuyaga moto, right? Setting fires, that's environmental damage also happens in the cause of conflicts. Weakened governance, yeah, international spillover. International spillover. If it's within the country, sometimes other countries can also be affected. So the conflict resolution is a process by which two or more parties reach a peaceful resolution to a dispute. Process by which two or more parties reach a peaceful resolution to a dispute. So usually it means two or more parties are disputing. Now they want to resolve that conflict. Yeah. So conflict resolution aims to find solutions acceptable to both parties to achieve peaceful coexistence, to find solutions acceptable to both parties. And it can, different methods are used to increase cooperation, promote reconciliation, and strengthen relationships. So there are different methods that are used or strategies that are used to resolve conflicts. So the first one is pushing one viewpoint at the expense of the other. You just push your point. You want your point to be heard. So much, and it becomes problematic, more especially if the other part feels like they are superior than the other. So they'll try to force their viewpoint, their idea. So that's forcing.
As a strategy.
Yeah, as a strategy. Forcing yourself, you'll be forcing yourself to, you'll be forcing the other party to buy your idea. So you just want your idea to be heard. So this one may be may be appropriate when all other less forceful methods may be appropriate when all other less forceful methods do not work or are ineffective. When you've tried all other methods and do not work, that's when you can employ the forcing strategy.
I feel like when this is done in court or environment, when you do your own. You say, you say, oh, for God. Then get person
So it means the other party trying to maintain a firm resistance to the counterpart's action. So for them, they just feel like maybe they're in a better position. In most cases, as I said, if you feel like you have more power, it's like you're trying to control the other part by forcing them to accept your point of view. So it happens. So as I said, it works when all other less forceful methods did not work. That's when you can employ the forcing strategy to resolve conflict. So it can also be considered suitable when a quick resolution is required. If you want a quick resolution, is when you can just employ the forcing strategy. So what can be the disadvantage of using this method, the forcing method? What can happen? The disadvantage of using this method, limitation of using this method of forcing. You end up being judgmental.
you might lose your life,
You might lose your life,
loss of lives.
loss of
You
lives.
know what you are being forced to do, where is it taking you to?
Mm.
So
Yeah, so forcing may also negatively affect the relationship with the opponent in the long run because you feel like uh, the solution was not favorable, was not um, good for you. So you can even lose trust in the other party. So may intensify the conflict if the opponent decides to react in the same way. So it can intensify if the opponent wants to react in the same way. You want to force, and the other party also wants to force their viewpoint. So it can intensify instead of resolving the conflict. So it does not allow to take advantage in a productive way of the other side's position. And last but not, it does not allow to take advantage in a productive way. So because you're just forcing, it cannot be productive. What if there are better methods which can result into a productive way of resolving that conflict? Some ways of resolving conflict cannot be productive. Otherwise, they can hinder productivity in one way or the other because you're just trying to force, even if maybe the other side is in a better position, like maybe it's holding a better argument. And it may require a lot of energy, forcing, because you do not expect the other party just to accept your viewpoint. So it may require a lot of energy and can be exhausting. Because it doesn't mean when you're trying to force, the other party will just accept your viewpoint. So you may need a lot of energy to convince the other party to accept your point. So the other one is collaborating, which is a win-win way of resolving conflicts. It involves an attempt to work with the other party involved in the conflict to a win-win solution. You are trying to work with the other party to solve the problem in a win-win situation. It means you discuss with the other party. So the aim is to find a solution that most satisfies the concerns of both parties collaborating. You want both parties to be satisfied. Because when you use forcing, the other party definitely may not be satisfied with the solution. So the win-win approach sees conflict resolution as an opportunity to become to a mutually beneficial result. They see a win-win approach as an opportunity to come to a mutually beneficial result. It means everyone will benefit at the end of the day. Are we together on collaborating? A win-win situation whereby you're trying to solve your problem so that both parties are satisfied. So you work together between two parties. So collaborating may be the best solution when consensus and commitment of other parties is important, and when the conflict occurs in a collaborative, trustworthy environment, and when it is required to address the interests of multiple stakeholders. So it requires commitment of both parties. And it is necessary when you want to satisfy the interests of both parties. And it also ensures long-term relationship because it means you have reached an agreement to your solution. So it can also lead to a long-term relationship, unlike forcing. If you force them, it disturbs the trust. The other party cannot trust you. So it means even the relationship cannot continue. So you are writing. Okay. The other one is compromising. Mm. So different from the win-win situation. In this was different from the win-win solution. So in this outcome, the conflicting parties find a mutually acceptable solution which partially satisfies both parties. It means you are just compromising, but you are partially satisfied. But the other one, both parties, the collaborating, it means both parties are satisfied. The compromising, the both parties are partially. So aliyense apindule wait pang'ono pang'ono osati kuti mwina kuti aliyense wina aluze wina awine. So both parties are partially satisfied. So it occurs when both parties converse with one another and seek to understand each other's point of view. So the two parties sit together and have a conversation, discussion on how they can deal with the situation. So this is necessary when the goals are moderately important and not worthy the use of more assertive or more involving approaches. When goals are moderately important. So because you feel like you don't lose, you cannot lose much if goals are moderately important. But when they are more important, they're too important, I don't think you can manage to compromise on your goals. So this one is doable when your goals are moderately important. And it may be useful when reaching temporary settlement on complex issues as a first step when the involved parties do not know each other. Useful when reaching a temporary settlement on the complex issues and as a first step when the involved parties do not know each other, or may not have reached or may not have developed a high level of mutual trust like the two parties. So you can use the compromising as a solution to the conflict. So the level of tension can be lower as well, but the result of the conflict may be less satisfactory. As I said, like you are not completely satisfied. So the result can be less satisfaction by both parties. Both parties are not really satisfied, but you're just trying. That's why it's used to solve. It's just a faster way of solving your issues. And it does not contribute to building trust in the long run. The compromising. Like at that moment, because you just want to deal with the issue at hand, for that moment, you may feel like you have developed some form of trust, but in the long run, it does not contribute to trust building. And partial satisfaction can result, not full satisfaction. The other one is withdrawing. Withdrawing. Withdrawing, it is also called avoiding. So, you know, some party will just withdraw from all the misunderstanding. So this technique consists of not addressing the conflict. You postpone it or simply withdraw it. So it means you do not address the conflict per se, but you just postpone it, you just leave it, you just withdraw. So what can be the disadvantage of withdrawing method or strategy? If you just withdraw, what can happen in the long run?
No trust.
Yeah, no trust. What else?
It's the end of the relationship.
It can be the end of the relationship. Yeah, so it's suitable when the issue is not trivial and not worth the effort. And when more important issues are pressing, you feel like you have more important, more pressing issues than that issue. So sometimes you just think of withdrawal or postponing it. So, however, not acting may be interpreted as an agreement, and therefore it may lead to weakening or losing a previously gained position for the other party, more especially the party which has withdrawn. So if you just withdrawn or you're trying to postpone it, the other party may think or may interpret it as an agreement, like everything is sorted, when maybe it can recur after some time. So when using withdrawing as a strategy, more skills, time, and experiences together with other actions may need to be implemented. If you're trying to use withdrawing, you may need time, skills, and experience. Otherwise, you can withdraw today, but after maybe a short time, you realize, no, I was not supposed to withdraw it. I needed to fight for maybe rights or whatever. So it is not always just to withdraw. Yeah, smoothing or accommodating. So is accommodating the concerns of the others first rather than your own concern. So you're trying to accommodate the concerns of the other group. Somehow, eh? So you're trying to accommodate the concerns of the other group. So this kind of strategy may be applied when the issue of the conflict is much more important for the counterpart, whereas for the other is particularly not relevant. If you feel like the issue at hand is more important to your counterpart, so then you can just accommodate it when you feel like to you it's not that relevant or it's not that important. So it may also be applied when someone accepts that he or she is doing wrong. And furthermore, there is no other possible option than continuing an unworthy, competing, pushing situation.